Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live.
Daniel Caw. Daniel Caw, the lesser spotted Daniel Caw. How are you, son?
I'm very good, thanks. We're joined by a resident referee, Des Roache, as well. But before I say hello to yourself, Des, I've got some bones to pick. I've got some.
Aye.
Listen, I take a few days off, Des. Right, a few days off, hard earned. People say I'm the brains behind this operation. That's not for me to say, right? But people have been saying that. And I'm getting phone calls. I've been sent to Saudi Arabia. I've been transferred. I'm in my bed for transfer deadline day. Listen, Keith, there'll be queued round the block. If you put me up for transfer, you regret it.
Look, Daniel, I mean, look, it's not really for me to say. Yes, I may have said something along the lines that if the Saudis come in, I'll be dead easy to deal with. But, you know, and if your mum's been complaining because you've not been on every night, that's not my fault either. Just go on with the job, and don't you ever think about taking a holiday when the transfer deadline window comes up again. It's not happening, Daniel.
It's my birthday's January the 31st.
Right, okay, well, birthdays are cancelled.
Rearrange
them for sometime in February from now on, please. If you wouldn't mind.
How much Keith was complaining last week trying to operate the machines coming in.
It's a nightmare, Des. Des, I can hardly work the remote control for the telly.
I'm surprised you're allowed the remote control for the telly.
Well, I'm a certain age now, aren't I? Let's just leave it there.
We'll all be 65 one day. William Sloan.
I'm not sure if I'll make that.
Is that by your wife's choice?
Yeah.
I imagine no one happier than Keith to see Daniel back from his sabbatical. Jota back now, Daniel. I hope we can all keep our emotions in check.
I might start crying.
And Gianni, Daniel back from Saudi, great to see you. And who's the guy in the specs? Listen.
Look at that, they missed you.
I know, this is lovely. This is absolutely lovely.
Our little community must have missed you.
Look, I think the best place for us to start when it comes to football, guys, Des, it's Dundee United. Have broken ranks slightly today in terms of leaving. I mean, how's the best way to put it, Keith? The KMI
match
panel.
Incident review panel.
Yep.
Dundee United put out a statement shortly before we came on air tonight to say that they are withdrawing their representation from it. Let's just say it was a stinging, scathing statement. As much as what it didn't say is what it did say. Clearly unhappy. I've got a little bit of it here, if you bear with us. Which I thought was the key parts. I'm sure everybody will take their own key part, but Dundee United FC has today formally notified the Scottish Football Association of our decision to withdraw our representation from the KMI panel. This decision follows extensive discussions throughout the season with the Scottish FA refereeing department, where we raised concerns regarding the panel's purpose, effectiveness and impact on Scottish football. We believe the panel's outcomes have been inconsistent with feedback provided by the Scottish FA. This is where it gets interesting. There have been instances where on-field decisions supported by VAR and endorsed by the Scottish FA refereeing department were contradicted by the KMA panel. In many cases, these disagreements appear to be based on the opinions of panel members who, for the most part, lack significant experience in the laws of the game. Subsequent outcomes have been magnified by external media misrepresentations, placing undue pressure on our match officials and potentially influencing further future decisions. We believe changes should be made to the KMI panel or an alternative, more robust process should be used for reviewing refereeing decisions if deemed a requirement. They're slaughtering it, is my sort of initial reaction to that. They're slaughtering the process.
Strong words, Des.
Yeah, very strong. I think if you pick out a couple of the key points there that were mentioned, the first one that comes to me is the purposeness, the effectiveness and the impact. They're basically saying it's irrelevant. They do not trust it. Now, it then further on and says there are inconsistencies supported by the SFA. Now, my first thing is, and it was the first thing that came to mind when you sent me, Daniel, was nobody knows who these panel members are. And when you talk about a lack of significant experience
that's the one.
in the laws of the game.
That's the one for me. What are they doing on it if they don't understand the laws of the game? What's
Exactly.
the point?
So that this is the picture I was building to before we got there, because if you're going to have a key match incident review panel, it has to be somebody who knows the incidents that they're looking at. Now, you're not going to take your car into a garage and say, oh, you need a new timing belt, or you need something done to it. That guy is an experienced mechanic who knows how to operate the systems that they're having to make judgments upon. You presume giving it to my 10-year-old son and just move it up. That's pretty much what they're saying there. So,
well, what are they saying? Because I want to drill into this a little bit, Des. Do you know what my first reaction to that is? Are they suggesting that it's former players? Are they suggesting that it's people, obviously, who don't have a background of being officials? That, to me, is what it has to be stressing. Either that, or they're saying that our officials don't know the rule book.
And I'm not... Which is entirely wrong, because our officials do know the rule book.
Well, exactly. So they must be pointing the finger then at former players.
And this is the bit where I always disagreed, when people say that ex players should be sitting in all these disciplinary panels, etc. Yes, there is a place for it, because they can maybe deem differently how a player would maybe be challenging for a ball, or what the expectations at that moment in time. If I was making up a panel to make judgments on football, I would certainly have an ex-player.
See, so would I. I would want that.
But you've got to have and must have someone who has a knowledge of the laws of the game, and whether that be a current referee committee member or someone who's ex of that standing. I mean, we look at it, Craig Thompson, probably our most decorated official that we have in Scottish football, is not involved in Scottish football. So why aren't you going to guys like him and saying, would you want to come? Now, he's working over in America. He's doing stuff with the Major League Soccer over there. But you have got to have somebody who can turn around and say to a player maybe give, well, I think he's went for the ball and he's not got it. And you can have a referee there who's giving the reason why that decision was made. Honestly, it baffles me why. And what's the secret? You could have a bank of 20 guys, 25 guys, and say, these are our people who will formulate this key match incident panel.
They don't need to be identified on a specific basis.
Yes, but they will be used on rotation on their availability. Is that not what Willie said at the start of the year about transparency and clarity and people being not surprised and unexpecting the results? If it was me, and they're never going to ask me, let's be honest, but I would quite happily put my name forward to it. Yeah, don't publish it that this Monday there's going to be Des, Daniel and Keith on the panel. But do you know what? One of them might be, and do you know what? They might not be used for another 5 weeks, but at least have a bank of people who are credible to do the job. At this moment in time, it's faceless. And for Dundee United to come out and say a lack of significant experience.
Yeah, if we had a KMI panel, I think it would probably be a key Michael incident, sort of a group to look back at what Gannon has contributed over the last while.
It might come up empty.
I'm not sure he plays to a rule book though. Yeah. So I'm confused then, Des. Can you clarify in terms of the makeup of these review panels? Is it your understanding that it's former players or people from out with the refereeing fraternity?
I don't know if I think Des has muted himself, Keith. We can't hear you, Des, at our end. I tell you what, while Des is working on his mute, let me hit you with a few comments. Because how's
your sign language, Daniel?
We've had plenty of comments in this one. Ewan Booth, VAR needs to be binned ASAP. Instead of cleaning up controversial incidents, all it's done is made matters even more confusing for fans. Stu says VAR is an issue. It's who's interpreting the data. That's the main problem. And this one here, Cy Johnson, VAR has definitely lessened my enjoyment for football, particularly when attending in person. Just bin it now.
And this is the problem, because I think there's a groundswell now, whether it's in the stands or whether it's in the boardrooms or whether it's in the dugouts. I think there's a bit of a groundswell. This feels like the beginning of a pile-on. St Mirren have come out and they've sort of slaughtered the whole VAR process. This is slightly different, but it's conflated into the same thing. It's the whole setup. Mm-hmm. And I think there has been a kind of feeling, a mood amongst supporters for probably since the introduction of VAR, that they don't like it. They don't welcome it. It does nothing for the match day experience. These are the guys that are paying money to be in the stadiums, and they're the ones that are getting the least out of it. At least the guys that are sitting on their couch watching the match have a better idea, because the broadcasters are informed and they're brought into the discussion. But the guys that are sitting there in the stadium haven't got a clue. And I think there's an element of fatigue about it. Personally, I'm for VAR. I think that any technology that we can use that enables us to get more decisions correct has to be welcome. Has to be welcome. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're getting the best out of it. I don't know if the people involved in the system are getting the best out of it, and we'll still get too many examples of it. I could flip a coin on that, though, and say, do you know what? You could probably go to every country across Europe and find that they're having the same arguments and saying the same things. That are we utilising VAR to the best of our ability? Are people, even with the advantage of the technology, still reaching the wrong conclusions and the wrong decisions? That is frustrating for everybody. But I would, my point of view would be, well, even if it means we're getting 90% right that are going to VAR, then that's got to be better than a 50% kind of return on just good fortune. I'm going to try and get Des here on my WhatsApp and see. Tell him to unmute himself.
I can see him. Canada Bear here says, Des, I appreciate what you're doing, mate. Good to see you on here. It'd be even better if we could hear you, Des. There you go. Look, the comments are coming in thick and fast on this. Easy Man says, why not just use VAR for things like offside? We all want the right decision after all. Mark Fairfield, VAR should never have been implemented from day one. It's been an absolute shambles. This one from Dennis, a resident Rangers fan who seems to think there's a conspiracy. Simply nothing to do with the ref's ability. It's all being controlled by one club. The panel knows who that club is. They call the shots at Hampden. And William, I think the best point of the night so far. Surely the best, most knowledgeable place to assemble those who know the best, who know the game best, are in the Hotline Live audience.
I thought you were going to say studio.
Aye, that would be.
Which would have been wrong.
Fun. Aye. I can see Des trying to mouth things, but we can't hear him. The wonders of technology.
I've also sent him a text message here, so this is why Des isn't anywhere near VAR. I mean, you're laughing at me. I'm admitting I can't use the remote control for my telly, right? All well and good, but at least I'm not muting myself.
Whilst we've got a minute to talk about this, Gianni has written in saying, was it a coincidence that we had the most viewers so far in Deadline Day and Daniel wasn't on? Gianni, it's been great hearing from you, but you're now blocked. Thank you very much. Aye. Look, the VAR stuff, Keith, I mean, I don't really know. See, just to kind of play devil's advocate, do you not think that, like, a referee maybe getting the odd decision wrong, not having VAR or whatever, it's all part of the rich tapestry of the game? Is that not kind of part? True perfection has to be imperfect, you know. We're always trying to correct things. Football,
we're never going to get perfection. And that was one of the great fallacies about when VAR was brought in. This idea that, oh great, we'll never have any more refereeing mistakes. No, you will, because a lot of these decisions will still have to be made subjectively. It's people's opinions that you're dealing with. So you're just never going to have this utopia where it's always right. There'll always be room, and that's part of the beauty of football, that everybody likes having a wee argument about stuff, don't they?
Aye, of course.
So there will always be shades of grey. It's not going to be black and white. But are we getting the best out of it? Are we utilising it as well as we can in this country? I'm not sure we are, but I'd rather work on it and improve it than get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Even though I know there's going to be a lot of fans out there screaming at their screens right now saying, nah, we've had enough. And I totally get that as well.
Oh, Noah here kind of backs up that point. He says, it was fine in plenty of other sports. It looks like Scottish football and the people involved with it are the problem.
Well, ask the fans down in England. Will they not tell you much the same thing? I mean, you switch on Match of the Day at the weekend, it's still going on. And they were quicker to the party than we were. And they've still not ironed it out and got it working to anywhere near a level that you would say would be close to perfect. It's nowhere near it.
Yeah.
I've told Des to log out and log back in again, which is about the extent of my IT knowledge. So let's see if that works.
Des. Nah, no joy. The wonders of technology.
Des.
Look.
Well, it was good while we had him.
Aye, absolutely. Look, Des, we'll just say thanks to Des, shall we? Thanks for joining us. Des, we really appreciate it. Your small but significant contribution was very much appreciated. And we'll try and get you back on soon, hopefully, when your system's working better.
See if this was red right now.
Aye. Cheers, Des.
Thanks, Des.
We've got plenty of other comments coming in. Keith, this one I think is a good point. Blue Nose, it doesn't help that we've got the pound store version.
No, again, that's
which
right.
Is a good point.
Fair point. We are, it's like, some people have got top of the range iPhones, other people have still got baked bean tins with a bit of string on them. Yeah. We've got the VAR equivalent of that. It's the Nokia version. But again, I'll come back to it. There's nobody spent more money on VAR than English football, the English Premier League, and they're still having the same arguments. They're still having the same debates. There's people down there saying scrap VAR, and they've got the most expensive one that money can buy. So I think it's unreasonable for us to expect that with a lesser version of it, that our guys are going to be somehow better at operating it. It's also worth, because I might well be pro keeping it and improving it, and that is my position. But it's also worth remembering that Norway just the other week decided that they've had enough. They're getting shot at. Sweden have never wanted it and never installed it in the first place. So, we wouldn't be an outlier if we decided that we've had enough of it too.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that's the right way to go about it. I just think we have to get better at operating it. How we do that, I'm not sure. Because what worries me is that what we've seen recently is officials making very similar mistakes, and these are the ones that were meant to be learnings and meant to have been kind of, Willie Collum sat people down and said, see if you see anything like that, for God's sakes, don't do it that way. This is the way to do it. Mm-hmm. And some of them are still doing it that way, and that brings us back to, what was it? Was it Nick Walsh? Yeah, Nick Walsh the other week, where he stuck by a decision when VAR was basically pleading with him to change his mind, and he didn't. There's a lot that's unsatisfactory about it, and the fact that St Mirren have kind of weighed in, Dundee United have weighed in. It'll be interesting to see what plays out, who speaks up next. I don't imagine they're going to be alone. I think that there'll be more. It's at various points, various managers have spoken up. Mm-hmm. But this is now at boardroom level. This is club level. This is like official policy stuff.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. Who's next? And if you've got half, let's just say half of the top flight clubs come to the table and they're making official notifications of their dissatisfaction with this, where do you go from there? Where does the SFA go for there? Because these clubs are the ones that are paying for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. I hope we do the right thing. I think it's important for us to use technology. I mean, we just need to use it better.
Aye. Marzuno makes a good point here in the comments saying you could let 10 of the most experienced football people watch an incident 10 times and they'd all disagree. And to be fair, that's a good point, I think. Yeah,
well, look, Dundee United seem to have a beef, right? Now, why do we imagine that Dundee United have stepped into this at this particular moment in time? Because it's just a few days after Marley Watkins smashed into the goalkeeper and scored a late winner for Kilmarnock at Rugby Park.
Did you think that was a foul, Keith? Just out of interest.
Well, this is where why the debate is. I talk about shades of grey. For me, that goal's perfectly fine.
Really?
Marley Watkins just goes up. He's strong. He gets up and he wins the header. The goalkeeper, not only is he similar in stature to Marley Watkins, but he's got arms and hands. There's no way that he should be losing that. that was just a striker who was more committed than a goalkeeper there. And it's interesting because there was various views. I think, I can't remember who was doing co-coms on the evening, but was saying, you know, that this is great, this is brilliant, a brilliant example of what should happen. That goal should never get chopped off. But then you had other pundits sitting in various studios looking at it saying, well, the goal should never have stood. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm looking at my goalkeeper saying, why are you not coming and claiming that? How is it possible for his head to get up above where your hands should be? Maybe I'm a dinosaur. Maybe I've got a very old-fashioned view on that. But for me, Marley Watkins he just wanted it more. He got there. I don't think there was a foul committed. He went up and he planted his head on the ball, scored.
Aye. Well, look, later, a little bit later in the show, we're going to be joined from Celtic Park by Record Sports' Fraser Wilson. Obviously, there is a Premiership game tonight. Celtic taking on Dundee in the rearranged game that was called off. Was that last week? A couple of weeks ago? But before we do that, Keith, a couple of other...
That was when the Storm was on.
Aye, that was at Storm Eon.
And do you know what? And I don't want to complain, right? Because you know me, I'm one of these guys just soldier on. I've got a skelf here. And it's really starting to bother me. And I got the skelf trying to save my fence during that storm. And it's actually getting progressively worse. I'm sitting here going, it's stinging now. Maybe I'll need to take a couple of weeks off, Daniel.
Aye.
Leave you to it and deal with my skelf.
Well, I'll sleep better tonight after that anecdote.
Well, I'm just telling you, I'm not allowed to say. I'm in pain.
Look, you're no hero, Keith. That's it. You're no hero. You soldier on. Cyriel
That's the
Dessers.
definition of heroic.
Cyriel Dessers, another guy that's soldiering on, Keith, eh?
Mm-hmm. Nice link. Missed that.
His agent has come out and said 10 clubs were after him.
Yeah,
in the January
got a bit on that as well.
window. What do you make of that?
One might look at it with an air of scepticism, but I don't actually. The agent, Stein Francis, and the exact quote was, there is still a lot of probing. I think he's talking about activity over the January transfer window. There is still a lot, and more generally to just Dessers, I think he then uses Dessers as an example. There is still a lot of probing, but clubs are pushing much less. Look at Cyriel Dessers. He had 10 offers, but the market is much more difficult at that time. Many wanted to rent him, but Rangers only wanted to sell. And that is not ideal for the player's focus. So what do we take from that? I think we take from that the agent believes that there was a significant number of clubs from Europe and abroad who were looking to get a loan deal done for Dessers, and had approached him asking about the availability of the chat, the possibility of having a discussion about getting that done, and clearly there was no appetite at Rangers for doing a loan deal. What is interesting is the agent says Rangers only wanted to sell.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Rangers, he's not going, you can forget about it, tell him to go away. It was Rangers, if you're interested, come back and give us an offer. But there was, and when you think about it logically, what were Rangers to gain out of letting him leave on loan? Nothing.
Very little, eh?
Because Dessers is actually playing his way into a purple patch again, and we've all seen when he is on form, he can make a big contribution. It's just that he has long extended periods when he's nowhere near form. Nice. But right at this minute in time, with Danilo injured, without Dessers to share the load, it would be all on Egerman, and they're going into the last 16 of Europa League. I'm sure they've got ambitions to go the distance, or certainly as far as they can in the Scottish Cup. So I as much as they might want to unload people like Kieran Dowell and Rabbi Matondo, who were sitting on the sidelines earning a big whack of money and not contributing, there's no doubt Dessers could contribute. Yeah. But I think it's interesting that the agent is almost saying there, look, if somebody had come in and was prepared to put a significant wad of money down on the table, Rangers would have done a deal.
Aye. Some comments that have come in this as well. To be fair, Dessers' stats are good. Clubs probably thought they could get a loan deal out of us, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. And this one from David MacArthur. Dessers is a better striker than Ida right now, although I do think Ida can improve now that he's regarded as number one at Celtic. That's an interesting one, Keith. I wouldn't put Dessers ahead of Ida, would you?
No. No, I wouldn't. But it depends what Dessers, doesn't it?
No.
See the Dessers that you've seen over the last few weeks, where all of a sudden his touch looks greatly improved, his finishing looks greatly improved, his confidence is up.
Mm-hmm.
He's a handful.
Yeah.
But it's similar in terms of they're more traditional, what you would expect from a number 9 in their physical stature. You know, compared to a Kyogo or even an Eagleman who is sturdy, but he's not what you would go as you're a target man, a big old-fashioned number 9.
Yeah.
In terms of physicality, running power, speed, and finishing, you would look at it and say, well, Ida's the better bet. But Dessers has shown, and he shows it in these flashes and bursts of games, where when he's hot, he is hot. And right now, Rangers are stronger for having him around.
Yeah.
And if you look back to the start of the season, when Clement had decided to stick with them through hell or high water, Dessers was leading the line and getting progressively worse from week to week. I wouldn't have said that at that time, that Rangers would be better keeping him around, because at that point he just looks like, a bit of a busted flush. But fair play. And what I did say at that time, Daniel, was I thought he needed taking out the firing line for no other reason, just as an act of kindness, because you could tell that his confidence was gone, that his head was gone. And I think by giving Eagleman his chance, I think it's allowed Dessers a bit of breathing space to maybe regroup a little bit, maybe work on some things in the training ground, maybe get his fitness up. I don't know, but he's greatly improved from the version that we saw before Eagleman was given that chance.
Yeah. John in the comment section there saying Ida needs nowhere near as many chances to score a goal.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
His hit rate will improve with a longer run of the team. One man, Keith, who will be seeing Adam Ida in the flesh tonight is none other than Record Sports' Fraser Wilson. Fraser, how's it going?
Good, pal. Yourself? Seem to have some lines coming down my camera here. I hope you can't see those. There we go, nicely centred right in the middle of them.
Your state-of-the-art camera.
The Nokia is
Spectrum I'm working on.
The Nokia is working better than the last time, Fraz. So that's an improvement.
No, this is my laptop, mate. That thing's been binned.
Well, look, you're there tonight, Fraser. Celtic taking on Dundee in a rearranged game from a couple of weeks ago. Celtic can go 13 points clear tonight. Brendan Rodgers will be desperate, after all the talk about the transfer window, to just get those 3 points in the bag.
Absolutely. Look, it's quite surprising to find out it's 12 days since this fixture was blown down the road by Storm Owen, isn't it? But I think there'll still be some eyes in the stands ahead of kick-off to see what sort of reaction there is for the supporters. Now it's the first game back since the transfer window shut. Brendan Rodgers had he was keeping cool when he was asked about it yesterday. Touched on it. You could see there's a wee bit of frustration simmering underneath. Didn't go too hard on it this year, but the lack of a new striker to replace Kyogo obviously is still the big talking point. So whether the supporters will go where Brendan refused to go yesterday, we'll find out in the next hour or so.
Fraser, there is nothing more certain than that. Everybody knows what the Green Brigade is like. They're a militant bunch, and I don't think they'll be slow in getting their message forward tonight. I don't think they'll be sparing anybody's feelings.
This time last year, Keith, they did exactly that at Pataudry, wasn't it? They brought out the old bed sheets with on your head be it board after they only brought in Nicholas Kuhn and Adam Ida, of all people, in the last January window. To be fair, those two have gone on to do not too bad.
Well, exactly.
Now Ida is the main man, as we all know, to carry the number 9 shirt for the rest of the season. And look, see, to be fair to Adam Ida, he stepped up this time last season, didn't he? I think it was only a couple of days after that he responded with 2 penalties against Hibs to get himself off the mark. And he went on to prove to be a right big game player. And for me, there's suggestions that's happening again. The last week, certainly down at Aston Villa. Again, another typical striker's goal against Motherwell on Sunday. I have no doubts that Adam Ida is a Celtic quality centre forward. The problem is, does he have backup? We know there's plenty of goals on the wings, but if something happened to Adam Ida, would Celtic have enough in reserve? to get through the rest of the season.
I was going to say, Fraz, that is the main thing tonight. And it won't just be your eyes and the eyes of the rest of the press box. It'll be the eyes of 60,000 fans sitting around Celtic Park and the two eyes in the manager's head in the dugout. Because if at any point it looks as if Adam Ida feels something go pop in the back of his hamstring, there will be pandemonium. There will be utterly pandemonium. Because Celtic have to go in, would then have the potential to be minus Ida, with Maeda suspended for that first leg against Bayern Munich. And that's when all hell breaks loose.
That's Sod's Law.
And you know something? Well, Sod's Law applies directly to Scottish football, and it always has done.
Yep. It is.
Got a long-running association.
For that very reason, I would be surprised if Ida gets through tonight if he played any part against Wraith Rovers at the weekend. For that very reason. They need to wrap him up in cotton wool ahead of that Bayern Munich first leg next week. But I think
so
it's too important.
Do you think they might not start him tonight, Fraser, because of that?
No. What I'm saying is I think he'll definitely start tonight, I would think, because it's important to get that 13-point gap back established. But Saturday's Scottish Cup tie against Wraith Rovers, I'd be surprised if he played any part in that for that very reason.
You'll be watching that from a chaise long outside the dugout.
Lucky him. Yeah, I think it's too important to risk again at the weekend so soon after this win tonight. But you're right, this is a big game tonight. They need to re-establish that 13-point lead. Dundee coming here with a lot to prove, obviously, after that 6-0 hammering at home to Hearts at the weekend. That was a complete aberration on their part. Yeah. Tony Docherty took full responsibility for it, but at the end of the day, it's his players that have delivered the performance. So they'll be coming here looking to make amends for that, and there'll be a lot of eyes, not just on Adam Ida, but on Lyle Cameron. Probably some Rangers fans try to tune in to see how he performs on a big stage here against Celtic, now that he's agreed that pre-contract to move to Ibrox in the summer. So it'll be interesting to see how Lyle Cameron performs here tonight. He certainly looked the part in the two games at Dens Park recently against Old Firm. Tidy wee player, I like him.
Yeah. See, just in the comment section, guys, I'll get both your take on this. Easy Man saying, I really don't see the problem with not getting a striker. Maeda can fill in. Jota takes the left wing, backed up by Schlupp, who covers the left-hand side. I mean, Keith, do you see, does the argument hold any water that, look, Celtic could sign Mbappe, they're not going to beat Bayern Munich. They're going
100%.
to win the league. They're going to win the league. Why be held to ransom in January, and why not just wait to the summer? Does that hold any water to you?
Yes, and I've said it, Daniel. I know that you've been away on holiday and you've not been bothering watching, but there is an argument to be made here that Celtic have upgraded at left back. That Schlupp is a better option, more physical, more robust, powerful than Alex Vai. Who, you know, people seem to think that Alex Vai was. I felt he got a lot of praise. For not a great deal of apparent reason. So I look at that in terms of, I know what Schlupp can do. I was never convinced about what Vi was offering. There's a caveat that Schlupp hasn't played for, I don't know how long, I think it's about a year since he's had a start at Crystal Palace. So what kind of condition he's in? But all things being equal, I'm going there. I think that's an upgrade. Mm-hmm. Then you look at Lewis Palmer away, Jota in, well, any fool can see that is a monumental upgrade. And then you've got the added plus factor is that even though Schlupp is in the door, he's only holding the fort until Kieran Tierney gets there in the summer. So on that basis, you go, well, that's good business. But it's just not as spectacular a window as it looked as if it was going to be when Celtic thought Kieran Tierney would be back up the road in time for this game tonight, and when the general assumption, of which I was guilty of making as well, was that there would be a striker lined up. Mm-hmm. And we all know that Kyogo has been unhappy for some time now. It wasn't just this window. The club were aware, therefore they should, if they're doing their work properly, have something lined up. And that's what's antagonised the Celtic fans here. As you know, Brendan Rodgers thought it could be done. The fans expected it to be done. And I'm afraid the board are going to have to take their dumps on it. There should have been an element of, not an element, there should have been forward planning. It should have been put in place. And I totally agree. You can sign Mbappe, one or two others. You're probably still going to struggle to get past Bayern Munich. So therefore, what's the big deal? I still think Celtic get domestic treble. I hear that argument, but I think where Brendan Rodgers will be looking at it is, well, that's fine. That's all well and good. I've got Champions League qualifiers to prepare for in the summer.
Yeah.
When am I going to get a striker? I think Brendan Rodgers would have wanted that work done now to whoever it was that was being identified for the position to come in and get a good 6 months into his legs and under the table at Celtic before going into what are invariably the most important games of the season, right at the start of the summer.
Yeah. Fraser, I know you'll have your...
Listen, Keith, a punter has just walked by me and held your face up on his phone. He's watching live. Shout out to the big man. Incredible. Hotline live. And also, I've been waiting to do this. I have breaking news. The teams have dropped. Waiting to do this. Right, so you got your answer. Rida starts through the middle. Kieran Tierney left back. Sorry, no. Johnston, Carter Vickers, Thursday, Taylor, McGregor, Engels, Hatate in the middle. Jota in for the start on the right.
Wow.
Ida through the middle. Maeda on the left.
He's gone strong as anything.
Yes, it means business tonight.
Jota's Celtic Park homecoming, Fraser. Can you see anything
it.
other than the Celtic one?
No, to be perfectly honest. And look, I detest this thought process that they could sign Mbappe and not beat Bayern Munich. What is the point in turning up? You're saying Celtic can't get a result out there next week against Bayern Munich? Of course they're underdogs, but for goodness sake, they've invested, £34 million in the last two transfer windows. Scotland can beat Spain at Hampden. Scotland can hold Portugal at Hampden. It's time we started having a bit of belief in our clubs as well.
Much is sticking on it, Fraz.
Nothing.
Fraser, I know you have... I know you have your pre-match duties to go and do. We'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us in the Hotline Live. Go and try and catch up with that punter and get his take on Keith just generally. That'd be good.
No, don't bother. Unlikely to be positive.
Okay, lads. Cheers.
Cheers,
Fraser. Enjoy the game.
Fraser Wilson there from Celtic Park. Sheena, just to round up on this, Keith, saying if we don't win the treble, the board have to take the backlash. I mean,
Sheena, I don't like that. Because what we're living through extraordinary times right now where people think, well, if we don't win the treble, it's a disaster of a season.
I know.
Winning the treble used to be the height of people's ambitions. Winning the treble wasn't an ordinary thing that you just rattle off. Now, I get it that Celtic have raised the bar to that extent now that fans genuinely will look at it and say, well, if we don't win the treble this season, that's a bit of a disappointment. That's an astonishing kind of state of affairs, but it speaks to and it points to the extent of the domination and how well Celtic have been run as a football club over this past period, where the minimum requirement when you start the season is to deliver a domestic treble. This thing that used to be like a holy grail, like almost impossible, is now the minimum. So, there shouldn't be a backlash if Celtic fail to win the treble.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'll give you this. If for some reason Adam Ida's leg explodes and comes off at the knee tonight, right, and Celtic are left in this situation where they're struggling for number nines between now and the end of the season, and it impacts upon them to such an extent that they lose rhythm in the league. And if they were to blow what should become a 13-point league tonight, if they were to blow that and lose the league title to Rangers, that's when I could understand if there was a significant backlash. But you can't say, if you don't win the treble, we're coming for you. It just doesn't work like that, guys.
Yeah. Rebel quite rightly saying in the comments, the league's the holy grail, anything else is a bonus. And just to back up what you were saying there, Keith, Celtic didn't win a treble at all between 1969 and 2001. And Rangers haven't won a treble since, 2003, I think? 22 years? I mean, it shouldn't be regarded as the bare minimum, the treble.
No, that's the whole point is when you start a season, you dream about, could you imagine what it would feel like to win a treble?
Aye.
But because Celtic have been rattling them off like there's no tomorrow over recent years, it's become this sort of there are some Celtic supporters, and maybe the younger generations that didn't go through those extended periods where trophies were pretty hard to come by. They now just expect, well, there's 3 trophies, so they're ours. Before we've even kicked a ball, it doesn't work like that. So there should be no backlash against Celtic for not winning a treble. But you know, modern day life being modern day life, you know what? There probably would be.
Aye.
As silly as it is.
Aye. Well, look, on that note, I think that brings us to the end of Wednesday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. I would say this has been a better comeback than Lazarus, you know, me back in the chair, but that's not for me to say. I'm no hero. Keith, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. I'm not sure just as exciting as Jota's return, but it's a return of sorts.
Listen, flip a coin, that's all I'm saying. And thank you very much for all the comments. Thanks very much for getting involved in the discussion. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Thanks very much for watching. Keith, have a very pleasant night. You
go away and work out your trademark celebration, and we'll see it tomorrow. Give me
Thanks
marks out of 10.
Cheers.